Hello, my name is Noah, and I am a student in the INFA 735 Offensive Security class at DSU. Today I'm going to be giving a presentation on living off the land attacks and how attackers use that technique to bypass traditional security controls and stay hidden. And this was part of my exploitation research assignment. So today I'm going to talk about what living off the land attacks are, the typical execution flow used with them, some common tools that are used, and also how you can defend against them. So, what are living off the land attacks? Imagine waking up to news that a sophisticated group of cyber attackers had infiltrated critical infrastructure across the United States, using the very tools designed to manage and protect those systems. This was the reality when Volt Typhoon, a notorious advanced persistent threat group, executed a stealthy cyber espionage campaign using techniques so insidious and clever that they left minimal traces. The cyber world's no stranger to high-stakes espionage, but the Volt Typhoon attack marked a new era in the use of living off the land techniques. By exploiting legitimate software and system tools, this APT group demonstrated the formidable potential of living off the land strategies to bypass traditional security measures and carry out covert operations. Understanding and identifying these threats is crucial for staying one step ahead of the relentless battle for cybersecurity. Living off the land attacks involve using legitimate software and tools already present on a target system to perform malicious activities. Instead of introducing new and suspicious programs that might be flagged by security systems, attackers leverage trusted, built-in applications and processes to achieve their goals. This approach allows them to blend in with normal system operations, making detection much more challenging for traditional antivirus and security software. This technique has become increasingly popular. The 2023 Global Threat Report from CrowdStrike showed that 62% of index detections in their security cloud in the final quarter of 2021 did not contain malware, a sign that attackers were using native tools. Legacy antivirus systems have a very difficult time at detecting this type of attack. Next generation antivirus and network intrusion detection systems, often assisted by AI to detect behavioral signatures that indicate a machine has been compromised, are better equipped to notice these indicators of compromise. Government agencies have become so concerned that earlier this year, the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, released joint guidance along with other U.S. agencies and foreign allies, providing information on common living off the land techniques and gaps in cyber defense capabilities. That guidance included the following quote: "The authoring agencies have observed cyber threat actors, including the People's Republic of China, the Russian Federation, state-sponsored actors, leveraging living off the land techniques to compromise and maintain persistent access to critical infrastructure organizations." So this stuff is being used by the highest levels of state-sponsored actors. In essence, these sophisticated threat groups in the world are using these techniques today. To make a comparison to traditional warfare, this is like insurgency tactics compared to a full frontal assault. So what are living off the land techniques and why do attackers prefer them? Well, they are any attack that uses internal software and binaries that an operating system already trusts and that are vital to the system to operate normally. Living off the land techniques have been around for many years, but their sophistication has grown significantly over time. In the early days, these attacks were relatively simple, often involving basic scripts or commands to exploit system tools. However, as cybersecurity measures improved, so did the complexity of living off the land techniques. Initially, attackers might have used basic Windows tools like the command prompt or batch scripts to perform unauthorized actions. Over time, they began leveraging more advanced utilities such as PowerShell and Windows Management Instrumentation, or WMI, which offer greater functionality and are harder to detect due to their legitimate uses. Computers literally cannot run often without these tools being installed. In recent years, APT groups have taken living off the land attacks to new levels by integrating these techniques into multi-stage campaigns. And they combine those living off the land methods with other sophisticated tactics like social engineering, fileless malware, and lateral movement within networks. And this evolution has made living off the land attacks a preferred choice for cybercriminals and nation-state actors aiming to maintain a low profile while executing their malicious objectives. Living off the land techniques use legitimate tools already present on the system, making it difficult for traditional security measures, which, like I said, rely on recognizing signatures of malicious files to detect these activities. And since they don't involve introducing new executables or files, they avoid triggering those file-based antivirus alerts and get around the EDR solutions. So let's get into the execution flow of a typical attack. Initial compromise, much like other popular cyber attacks, come from phishing a target, using some sort of social engineering to get their credentials, or exploiting known vulnerabilities in unpatched software, such as exploiting a public-facing application. The next step is establishing a foothold. Attackers can use legitimate tools available on the system, like PowerShell, command prompt, to create a persistent backdoor. The attacker then sets up mechanisms to maintain access, such as creating scheduled tasks or modifying startup scripts to execute commands on reboot. One example is creating a reverse web shell, like the AWIN web shell, for persistence, and that was one that the Chinese state actors used. Next is elevation of privileges. The attacker can use built-in tools like WMI or PsExec to escalate privileges, gaining more control over the system. Tools like Mimikatz might be used to extract passwords and hashes from memory, allowing further escalation of privileges. Internal reconnaissance. Using commands and scripts, the attackers gather information about the network architecture, connected devices, and critical systems. The attacker looks for high-value targets such as servers containing sensitive data or key administrative systems. Lateral movement. Once the reconnaissance has been completed, the attacker moves laterally across the network, accessing other machines and systems, once again using PsExec or RDP, the remote desktop protocol. And you can use legitimate administrative tools and commands to avoid detection while moving through that network. The attacker then collects and stages data for exfiltration, often compressing and encrypting it to avoid detection. Using standard network protocols like HTTP, HTTPS, FTP, and the attacker can transfer that data out of the network, disguising it along with other legitimate traffic. The attacker might delete or alter log files to remove traces of their activities, removing or altering artifacts such as event logs, command history, and scheduled tasks to hide their presence. Like cleaning Windows event logs is a specific tactic that an attacker might use. And then, if the goal is to disrupt operations, the attacker might deploy ransomware or other destructive payloads. And even after achieving their primary goal, the attacker often leaves backdoors for future access, ensuring they can re-enter the network when needed. So there's 6 major categories of living off the land tools that I'm going to discuss today. Exploit kits is the first one. Their exploit kits are collections of exploits, like Metasploit is an exploit kit framework for easily deploying known exploits to a target system. Many exploits can be fileless and directly injected into memory without writing anything to the disk. Sometimes exploit kits can automatically scan a target system and then launch the appropriate exploit. The native tools, like we talked about before, they don't deploy any files because though that software is already installed, like PsExec, PowerShell, WMI, FTP, also shells like the Python shell, Perl, Bash, and Ruby. Those are all command and scripting shells that can be used on Unix and possibly Windows systems to carry out attacks. Registry resident malware is malware that's installed in the Windows registry to maintain persistence. In a fileless attack, a dropper program will write code directly to the registry instead of downloading a file that can be detected by the antivirus software. Memory-only malware is a malware that only resides in operative memory, leaving very little trace of its presence. High-profile example of this is the Duqu 2.0, DUQU. That was used to compromise the Kaspersky antivirus software and is attributed to the Israeli intelligence program. It led to Israel warning the United States that Russian hackers were using Kaspersky to exfiltrate secrets from U.S. companies and government agencies. This ultimately led to Kaspersky software being banned from government devices, and more recently, it was banned entirely from selling their products in the United States. Fileless ransomware uses techniques like native scripting languages and macros to write malicious code directly into memory, and then can leverage PowerShell to encrypt those files without writing any code to the disk. Stealing credentials is an important step in gaining a foothold on the network. Once the attacker has the credentials, it becomes easier to move laterally and to escalate privileges. Attackers will often create new users to establish persistence. And then in the next section, I'm going to talk about how network defenders can use strategies to detect these types of attacks. First step is implementing comprehensive and verbose logging and aggregating those logs. I know that in my position as an IT engineer at a smaller company, we're working on getting better at this step. We use Waza to capture syslogs and aggregate them as a SIM. And we capture those from endpoints, network endpoints, user endpoints. CISA recommends that logs should be stored out of band, meaning that they should not be on the same network or accessible with normal credentials. I think that's sometimes hard to implement in practice. It's just that segmentation makes everyone's life harder. The next step is establishing and continuously maintaining a secure baseline for tools and software. And this is just basic cyber hygiene, following like STIGs, setting up baselines, making sure that your configuration is not drifting off of those baselines. The next step is using automation to continually review all of those logs and increasing the efficiency of hunting activities. So with the sheer volume of logs created daily, even at a small organization, you have to be automating those logs and making sure that your rules only flag important and malicious activity. And that's the hardest thing about this, is that these kinds of commands blend in with normal administrative commands. And so it's very hard to tune those alerts that they're not just filling up with normal IT activity. But tools like Ansible, Puppet, Chef are all like configuration management tools that will help automate and prevent your baselines from drifting. And you can also reduce alert noise, like I said, by making sure that those rules are tuned very specifically to catch suspicious behavior. Lastly, leveraging user and entity behavior analytics. A lot of modern endpoint detection and response tools have the ability to detect strange behavior just based on behavioral AI, and not just the use of malicious files and tools. And that can be really useful when the attackers are using native system tools. So that behavior analysis might be able to catch some unusual lateral movement or commands coming from a user that doesn't typically use those types of commands. So in conclusion, network and defenders and attackers have always been and will always be in a cat and mouse game trying to outsmart each other. As defense tools become more sophisticated, attackers have found novel ways to stay undetected once they gain access to a network. Defenders must continually reevaluate their security posture and stay up to date on the methods that attackers are using. Constant vigilance is the only way to protect your organization from becoming the next victim of this type of cyber attack. So, thank you for watching.